This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. Once again, hello. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. And I really enjoyed doing today's interview for E&P Reports because it centers around a very small community paper in Oklahoma. We're going to go to Cushing, Oklahoma, and speak to J.D. Meisner, who is the publisher, owner, he also says on his email, chief bottle washer, of a community paper that truly serves the community. Not only is he the owner of that paper, he's picked up two others that are within 15, 20 miles of the city of Cushing. And this market, or this cluster, I should say, is about 60, 70 miles from any metropolitan area. Very energy-driven and agricultural-driven market. COVID hit him right after the purchase. And these guys are doing everything they can, him and his wife, to continue to do their mission to serve the community. And not only that, his wife, who was a local educator, knew they needed something to help the kids that she tutors with remedial reading to stay engaged, especially during COVID, where everybody's social distancing or huddling up in their homes. And they created a fascinating new product as well they call Smarty Pants, which is an engagement page. They home grew it because the $100 a month that some of the syndicators wanted for the product just was too much for their budget. You're going to really enjoy this because I believe that JD's passion for the industry is something we all need to hear right now. And more importantly, it's so great sometimes to hear the stories of some of the smaller papers in our industry that truly continue to thrive and serve in the markets that so desperately need them. So please stay with me for the next 30 minutes as we head out to Cushing, Oklahoma together as I go one-on-one with J.D. Meisner. J.D., welcome to E&P Reports. It looks like you're actually in your office, not your living room. Is that correct, sir?
I am in my office at downtown Cushing, Oklahoma.
What's Cushing like? What kind of town is it?
Cushing's an oil town. Cushing is the oil hub. They have 93 million gallons of oil storage here. And most of the economy is based on oil, but it's just a nice small town, about 4,500 people. And
wow. Your background, sir, I see an Oklahoma State shirt. For those of us that are watching us in video, Cushing is in Oklahoma. Can I assume, sir, you're a local Oklahoma guy that...
Actually, I am not. I'm wearing the colors just because in Oklahoma, that's you either have to wear the orange or the crimson. But I'm a New Mexico native, so I've been here for about 13 years.
We're chatting with you because you and your wife picked up the Cushing Citizen back in February. We'll get through that journey in a moment. But what is your background? You're an editorial guy that was hired there. Just give me a little bit of your background. How did you get started in the industry? And all that and more.
All right. Well, I'm a geology major from New Mexico State University, following in my dad's footsteps. And then what I always liked to write, an opening came up at the right time at the local paper, and I took a job as a cub reporter. And then 1 year later, wound up as an editor. The current editor left the business, and the publisher liked me enough, and I became editor. That was 1992. I was the editor of the Cibola County Beacon in Grants, New Mexico.
Okay.
And I spent a good solid 10 years there learning from mentors and hard knocks how to edit a newspaper. So then we moved to Oklahoma in 2006.
And you worked at Cushing, right, at this newspaper in Oklahoma?
I worked, I was at the Tulsa Business Journal for a while. Then I was another community newspaper in Chandler, Oklahoma, the Lincoln County News. Spent 6 years at another community newspaper about 10 miles south of here. And now and then I just came to work a year and a half ago for the Cushing Citizen.
And picked it up in February. That was interesting. You and your wife made a hard decision that you were going to become an owner of a newspaper in a world where some people say, what the heck are you thinking? How much time did you and your wife debate and discuss with each other or pray on that one before you made the deep dive to become the owner of the Cushing Citizen?
Well, we made the decision probably back in late October. We made the decision, okay, we're going to do this. It took a while to scrape up what we needed. I mean, I was a newspaper editor, for crying out loud. I didn't have any money in the bank. So we had to scrape. But so that was pre-COVID, way pre-COVID. And really, COVID wasn't in the picture. We closed February 1st. So we didn't have an inkling of what was of the hell that was to come. but we did it. And we knew it was a risk because the newspaper, excuse me, the newspaper business is what it is. But, you know, small community newspaper, this newspaper is well supported. The community loves it. And in that regard, we're not in this to make money and get rich. We're in this so I can do what I love. My wife's a school teacher, and so it allows her to join me in the summer because she enjoys the business.
Of course.
And so I want to do what I love, and I love newspapers. So.
Well, here we are. So just to give a quick overview, where is Cushing in relationship to any larger market? How far away are you from an actual place with a airport with service, or where is Cushing on the map?
We're about 70 miles from Oklahoma City.
Okay.
About 60 miles from Tulsa. I'd say we're due west of Tulsa and north and east of Oklahoma City. So we're kind of right in the smack dab center of Oklahoma.
I assume besides oil, agriculture as well is part of the local economy. Anything else driving you guys there? You're obviously not a suburb of the big cities. You're like your own little microcosm, right?
We are, yeah. We're just a little bit too far away to be like a bedroom community, so we don't get that. A lot, it's mainly energy, agriculture, and then just local business economy.
Competition for local news. There's no TV station there, I assume. You got a radio guy out there trying to pump out some stories?
Do have a radio, an old school AM radio station that's well supported. Mm-hmm. And they provide a little competition. There's a couple of quarterly magazines that provide a little bit of competition, but it's all friendly and it's real healthy. I mean,
circulation is weekly now as far as the printed circulation, correct?
Yeah, printed circulation, we're weekly. Our press run is about 1,300.
Okay. Are you paid or free?
We are paid. We're paid. We're 75 cents a copy on the counter, $20 a year for a subscription.
Good for you.
So I want people to read the paper.
Website metered, paid, or free to whoever logs in? What do you do with your web?
It is paid. We have a paywall if you want to. I mean, I put when COVID hit, we lifted the paywall. We didn't just hide the COVID stories, or anything. We lifted the paywall, and got a lot of appreciation for our readers for that. We tried to give coverage. I mean, the coverage is what it is. Everybody's reading about COVID, so basically we just kept the local numbers live, so everybody knew what the caseloads were. So.
All right, and finally, staff-wise, are you the chief bottle washer, salesman, and publisher, editor? Do you have any team supporting you there? How big's the staff at the Citizen?
Currently, it is myself, my wife, who's a school teacher, and then we have a full-time bookkeeper, glue. She does everything that needs to be done and keeps me from doing stuff that doesn't need to be done. So.
So that's the operation as it is right
now. It
now.
is. Yeah. And we, I don't know if you were aware, I think I sent you an email, but we just purchased 2 more newspapers. So,
tell us about that.
Okay. I've known, the owner's name is Barbara Weiss. I've known her since I've been in Oklahoma, just through the Press Association. And I reached out to her when we were looking at the Citizen, thinking maybe I could get a bundle deal. She wasn't ready then to sell. But a year and 6 months later, she decided she wanted to sell, and we were in a position to buy. So we got the Drum-Wreck Gusher and the Yale News. They're both small town newspapers. Their circulation total between them is probably about 1,500. And they're both separate entities, and I want to keep them alive. That's why I bought it. I knew if she sold it to a corporate,
Yeah.
I don't want to say any more than that. I just want to keep those newspapers alive. So we took that plunge, and they may or may not ever turn a positive profit, but we're going to make them work.
Where are those markets in relationship to Cushing, sir?
The Drumright paper is 15 minutes west of us, about
Okay.
20 miles or so. And then the Yale newspaper is about 15 miles north of us. So they're both small markets, but it just made sense for us just because they were both right there.
So you're not only churning out the content and doing the sales for one paper, you're doing it for three. And you've got a cluster going here. Now, can I ask,
you have hit it on the head, yes.
Does an advertiser in Cushing want to market sometimes in those markets as well? If I was a heating and air conditioning guy with dad driving one truck, my kid driving the other, would I be going into those markets? Would I want to do a clustered sale, or is it mostly individual advertisers?
No, that's clustered sale. That's our whole, that was our whole driving force behind picking up those two papers, is we know we can create a nice package for most of our advertisers. And we've got some hospitals in town that are fighting real hard for market share. And, it's like they say, when elephants fight, only the grass suffers unless you're the newspaper. And then when the elephants fight, you can kind of pick up the pieces a little bit. So,
well, you and I are similar in one way. You had a degree in geology. Mine was biology.
Okay.
And I entered media as a disc jockey. I just wasn't talented enough, so I got into sales.
But you've got great radio voice, so.
Well, thank you. But I'm also much older than you. I can just tell looking at you. Like, my decision when I went into did the purchase was, retire. Nah, let's do something back for the industry. You're a young guy, and now you're all in. I mean, you got your chips on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I love your attitude, because it sounds to me you have here's an expression, ink in your veins. You want to. And I use that not saying print versus digital, but I use that as meaning you understand the mission is to inform, influence, and protect your towns through your journalistic coverage, correct?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. That democracy dies when the newspaper dies.
I agree completely.
Now,
you keep talking COVID. Now, I just want to bring this up. There's a political play going on. As we record this right now, COVID has become a political issue where some in our society actually believes this thing exists and some in our society don't. You are in, correct me if I'm wrong, a more redder environment in Oklahoma. Am I correct, sir? I mean,
it's brilliantly red.
Okay. But this is something I want to bring out because, I'm doing some studies right now, and we're doing them internally, then we'll be publishing, on how CNN is almost wall-to-wall COVID, where an outlet that's more red, like Fox News, tends to avoid the topic. Even with all that, your town is accepting the pandemic, correct? When you say that, that means retail business is hurting, people are staying in. Are people wearing masks? And your wife's a school teacher. Will your schools open in a few weeks? What's the story out there, if I may ask?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I personally, COVID exists. It's a real thing. Was there an overreaction at the beginning? I don't know. But right now, as it stands, people are dying from COVID.
Okay.
You cannot deny that COVID is a real thing.
You have a hospital in your town, sir, correct?
We do. And
are there patients in there now in the emergency room with COVID-19?
There are probably 2 or 3. And we have not been hard hit. We've had, in our county, we've had 2 deaths. And we are currently looking at, I think, 400 cases, 500 cases. So we haven't been real hard hit, but then we're fairly sparsely populated. People are wearing masks. Not all of them. I'd say we have about 90%.
You're kidding.
Yeah. No.
I live in Tampa Bay, which leans very red in some respects.
Yes.
And I would say when I go into a 7-Eleven, 60% are wearing masks. So in your small town, your people are getting it. They believe there is a virus, and that's affecting go ahead. I'm listening.
No, you're good. They do. Oklahomans as a rule have a heart. I mean, they look out for the fellow man, and that is definitely the tactic they've been taking with the masks. Is you're not doing this to protect yourself, you're doing this to protect your fellow man. And Oklahomans kind of have this thing they call the Oklahoma standard, that we take care of each other. So I think that plays into it a little bit. And then, of course, the Walmarts, the Lowe's, the larger stores, there's a sign on the door. If you're not wearing a mask, don't come in. They're not enforcing it because you see people in there without masks on. But I'd say we're still at about 90% masks. So COVID's real.
Let's talk about how that's impacted the economy. Your reason you reached out to me is to tell your story. And we're going to get to how you're dealing with it in a second. But in that rural economy, when COVID hit, and that economy is being impacted mostly by obviously energy and agriculture, why did your advertiser base drop so quickly? Was it because people just did not want to shop? The restaurants shut down? When did it all happen, and how did it impact your small economy? I mean, the small market, your triad out there. How did this all go down, and when?
Well, in April, the heavy, or I guess March it was. Yeah, it was March. Mm-hmm. The heavy shutdown, the stop the economy, which wasn't the plan. The plan was to slow the spread, lessen the curve, flatten the curve. And so the restaurants closed. Our restaurants weren't like massive advertisers. We had a few that advertised. I think our biggest loss was casinos.
Of course.
We have gaming out here in Oklahoma, Native American gaming. And when they closed, they didn't call me and cancel their advertising. And I could have run their advertising and billed them. But if I want them to come back and be happy with me, of course we're gonna. I called them all up and said, "Do you want me to kill your ads?" They're like, "Oh yeah, please." So that was
a big one.
That was about a 40% hit, just right off the top.
Were you getting any insert business from the Lowe's and the Walmarts and the drugstores? Any of that dry up or what?
We had a little bit of that, but it never dried up. I mean,
good for you.
We're still getting inserts for the pizza place that runs about their buffet, and they don't have a buffet, but they're still sending us the inserts, and I'm not going to stop that. So, what
about jobs and cars and homes? How are the three verticals? Some call that those pillars. Are they doing well, or did they dry up too?
They're doing okay. We Cushing is kind of a unique economy. It's got all its eggs in one basket, and it took a little bit of a hit, but we're doing okay at the newspaper. We have good support, good corporate support. So
good for you.
We're not necessarily relying on our mom and pop shop advertisers to show us what sweatshirt they got on sale, but we have good corporate support from bigger industry that just says, yes, we will support the newspaper for you. So.
Now, energy was affected by COVID, correct me if I'm wrong, because people stopped driving so much.
Yeah.
So is there a lot of layoffs out there in the wells and the pipelines and all the other stuff that I see when I travel into your neck of the woods?
Yeah, the oil production, yes. The pump jacks that you see that moving up and down, pulling the crude out of the ground.
They're stopping?
Yeah, those guys, they're stopping unless they've got natural gas in the well, and then they're still running.
Wow.
They'll lose that gas if they stop pumping it. It's what they tell me. I don't know. I'm not that much of an expert. It's been a long time since I had a geology class. But the Cushing is into storage. So the storage factor, people stop driving, you got to put the oil somewhere.
Right.
If you're not putting it in your car. So Cushing did it stayed pretty stable. I mean, it filled up. And then when Cushing filled up, you remember that fateful day back in April when oil went down to into the negative numbers. And that was amazing to watch. Nobody expected that.
So I remember this from my high school class called Supply and Demand, right? Something
that's right.
About that concept. All right. Now, here's why you reached out to E&P, and it was fascinating. Your wife approached you because she's an educator, correct? At what level does she teach? Elementary, mid, high? What does she do?
She is a 5th grade reading specialist. So she's remedial. She teaches the kids that have been socially promoted or for whatever reasons made it to the 5th grade and aren't really very good at reading.
God bless her.
So that's what she does. She's a 25-year veteran of teaching, and she's never taught anything above 7th grade. She's always in that
Critical year.
The fundamental years. Yeah, teaching kids how to learn.
And I don't want to, but assuming that you mentioned your environment, casinos and all that, I'm assuming there's a bit of poverty in your area as well, and people who are in the school system with issues and are not getting the education they need.
Oh yeah, yes. There's a lot of kids that fall through the cracks, and it's
right.
just we can go on and on about parenting, and that's.
And then here we are now with this virtual world, and we all agree that kids should be in school, especially the troubled ones, or the ones that need the most hand-holding, but safely. Your wife was in a conundrum, right? Because she wants these kids to learn, and she wants them to stay engaged. So she approached you with an idea. What was that idea, and how did this all come to fruition?
She came to me and said her kids. Here's how she explained it to me. She says, over the course of a summer, over the course of 3 months, school children lose at least 3 months of their former years of education. Mm-hmm. They forget it. They forget how to learn. So you've got to get them started again. You got to jumpstart them at the beginning of the year. It's all review. It's teaching them again how to read, how to behave in class, and just get their learning chops going again. So she says that since they haven't seen this classroom since spring break of this year, she says there's going to be a problem when these kids come back to school. They're not going to know anything, and they're going to lose that entire year that they had. The 2019, 2020 school year, they're going to lose all of that, and they're going to have to start over. So if they were a fifth grader and been moved to sixth grade, they're still going to be learning at a fifth grade level, if not worse. So she says, we got to do something. Let's figure something out. We have a newspaper. Let's get something out to them. So we figured just a kids activity page.
Which is not uncommon. A lot of the big companies thought of this idea, like the syndicates, right? Yeah,
it's not a new idea, and there's a bunch out there. And I was like, great. We did some research. We were like, we can't afford this. The way it's going now. I mean, you're talking. They want upwards of like $100 a week to run their page. I understand it's capitalism, and if the market's bearing it, that's what you're going to charge.
Yeah, but $100 a week is a big nut for you guys out there, right?
That's a chunk of our that adds to our expense.
So you created the product on your own.
We did. I've been doing graphic design for 20 some years. I started with Photoshop 3, I think, not CS3, Photoshop 3. Back when just being able to manipulate text on a computer was a new thing, but. So, and she's been teaching school, so she just says, I will come up with the content. Because she looked at some of those other pages, she says, this is like textbooks. These kids don't want to look at this. They don't. So she created content, and I created the pages, and we started back in May with it, and wildly successful as far as just the response from our own readers.
So these pages that help keep the kids engaged, in your email to us, they're being used. Even adults are enjoying them, right? They're in the local, you're seeing them everywhere, and everybody.
Yeah. The guy that runs a restaurant, I bring him 20 papers every week, and he tells me that that's the first place everybody goes, and they fight over it. And if one gets written on, he has to throw the paper away. Nobody wants it if they've filled out the crossword puzzle, so or what the activity. So yeah, it's been really well accepted.
What kind of content did you guys dream up for this thing?
She does.
Yeah, show us.
I'll just show it real quick. This one.
Okay.
This is a animal hero.
You're doing
animal heroes, yeah. And then we've got. You can get back a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is just an example. We've got the pigeon that saved the troops in World War I, and Balto, who made the Iditarod run. We've got she's done flags, the U.S. flag, and it's just
really
themed on the flag. Amazon rainforest, big cats.
Wow.
Just random topics. Now I'm drawing a complete blank on all of them.
That's okay. For our audio only, we have JD, half of our engagement people in this, because there are viewers and listeners. Half are on YouTube,
Oh,
and half
okay.
are like on a Stitcher or a podcast environment.
Now, my apologies.
No. To those of you that are in that environment, do us a favor. You can reach out to JD. We're going to get your email address at the end, and will you send him a PDF of what the page looks like? Because I saw you have one on your website. People can access, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We'll send that out. We want to make this available to other newspapers. We're not
really. That's really kind of
make money on it, but if any of the newspapers want to run this thing, we would be happy to send it to you, because this is about the kids. We want to make the kids, keep them going, keep them smart, keep their learning juices flowing, because otherwise they're just going to be at the pool, and then when they start school again, if they start school again, they're going to be behind.
You're also doing something else, which I love, is there's so many initiatives going on right now, JD, to increase the perception of the value of the local newspaper to the reader, the advertising community, to Congress, to everybody, that it's not just an advertising mechanism, it's an actual community supporter. It's if it's done properly, and I know you made your comment about the consolidation and the hedge funds and all that stuff, which we'll put aside for now, but a true community newspaper has someone like you at the helm. I assume, sir, you're involved in local community activities, nonprofits. You're doing everything you can to support the town. This is another arrow in your quiver to show families and kids the value of that masthead, which, by the way, is pretty young, right? It's only been around since 1895.
That's right. Yeah, it's brand new.
Serving the city of.
Yeah.
I mean, I got it right here. That paper goes way back. The owner you bought it from sold it to CNHI and bought it back.
Right.
This paper's gone through a few switches.
It has. It really has. Yeah, this paper's gone through a bunch. The newspaper north of it.
You kind of remind me of me, because I don't feel like I'm like running E&P or owning it. I feel like I'm the steward for the next guy.
Right? Yeah. You're
just alive.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, and this is really amazing. So you guys, rather than just give up and say, the syndicators are just too expensive right now, you said, okay, we don't have enough to do, he said sarcastically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
You have kids, by the way?
They're all grown and out of the house.
Oh, you don't look old enough for that. Okay, at least that problem gone. And then you decided to still provide that content for the local community as a labor of love. I think that's fascinating. That's just a great story.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and we're trying.
So if anyone wants to get a hold of you and get a hold of this product, first of all, I found it on the Cushing website. I think I found it under advertise. I think when I clicked that, I see a PDF download from the website, or maybe I'm wrong. But
yeah, it's separate from the Cushing Citizens website, but there is a download. You can see the PDF on our pages that are on our website.
Okay, so where is the website for this product that you built?
We call the product Smarty Pants. The website
Smarty Pants.
Yeah. My wife came up with it. It speaks to the kids as far as I'm concerned.
I love it. So what's the web address for that one?
SmartyPantsNews.com.
SmartyPantsNews.com.
Yes.
Someone wants to look over your editorial. Is it the Cushing Citizen or CushingCitizen.com?
CushingCitizen.com.
Excellent. They can at least skim it around. And what is your email address, JD, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, possibly your phone number as well?
Yeah. Email would be the one that I'm on all the time is publisher@CushingCitizen.com.
Excellent.
That's the one that comes into all my feeds. So that's just my best one.
And what is the central phone number where the 100 people who work there in the phone bank and
right. The recording, you get the recording that answers the phone. Yeah, we don't have that either, but It is 405. Let me back up. It's 918-285-5555.
918-285-5555. You're JD Meisner. Am I saying that correct?
That's correct, yes.
We didn't give your wife enough credit. What's her first name?
MaryLee Meisner, also known as Mrs. Meisner.
MaryLee, JD, two incredible citizens of your town. If I may, I don't want to, blow smoke, but thank you for doing what you're doing. I mean, you're keeping us alive. You're keeping the community alive. This is the story I love getting out, that there are still people who are working hard to do the mission of our media. So thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, and you're doing the same thing. You saved a magazine that's saving us. So,
Well, I don't save it, but we take it to the next. We're keeping it alive. Let's put it that way. JD, thank you for your valuable time. You stay healthy.
Thanks,
We're going to check in with you later on down the road and see how things are going. And more importantly, keep up the good work out there in Cushing. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.